Welcome back, folks, to 2 Bits 1 Puck. I'm your host, Mr. Intangibles, and a fancy boy, Dan Masters, with my good friend, a man who's 10 days away from being married and only a week away from moving into his new house. Will Everett, Will, how you doing?
I'm very well. One of those facts is incorrect. I regret to inform everyone that my wedding is now cancelled. No, our house has been pushed back for another couple of weeks now.
Oh no, you're kidding.
That's not too bad. It's only until the 31st, so that's all right.
Still. I suppose. I mean, you've waited, 3 years to move in anyway, so what's another 2 weeks?
Yeah, exactly. Especially as, you know, we were initially told, when we sort of reserved the plot, it's like, between June and the end of August, that's about right, providing there's no delays. And then, after a winter of no delays, here we are, looking at November. So only 5 months late.
Oh, fantastic. I don't really have a pressing question of the week. It's more an observation, but being back week to week recording the show is a bit of a motherfucker, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about.
It's not terrible, but when we were doing the 2 weekly shows, could always kind of relax after we did the show, because people don't realise, it takes altogether in recording, editing, everything else, about 5 hours to record and sort of put the show together. So it's a nice little break then of a week before we'd have to start again. And I got to Saturday morning and I thought, God, I've got to start taking notes and stuff already. I already need to start planning next week's show.
And
I'm already chasing my tail in terms of, I've got to start paying attention to articles and things. I better start reading Sportsnet and TSN again and looking for things.
It's hard, isn't it? Especially looking at like a league-wide sort of thing, where we're not a specific team podcast or something like that, having to find something interesting to talk about.
It would be a lot easier, because every team has that little thing.
Well, because then...
Yeah, exactly.
Then we could do like an hour just talking about whether Justin Dowling deserves to have a spot in the NHL. And, people who aren't stuff... all of our listenership would know Justin Dowling is, whereas I'd imagine most of them don't, because he shouldn't even be on the Stars. So, fucking there you go.
When half the people are discussing, hang on a minute, how good is Luke Glendening? Really? And we're like, no, you don't understand. He might be the next best player ever.
He's the second line centre that your team needs. Trade for him. Send him the first.
That your team really needs. For 1.8. He's like making 1.8 million. And he's absolutely phenomenal.
That's the hard thing where like there's that disconnect. You can be a great analytic player and you can have fantastic like impacts on shot metrics and expected goals and stuff, but in a lot of situations, if you're not actually converting goals or anything, you're not as useful as you could be, sort of thing.
It's true. Do you know what? Luke Glendening is the first player I've just thought this. He's the first player who has statistical data that's amazing, but he also has intangibles.
He's the chosen one. He can bridge the gap.
Do you know what he is? He's the new two-way player. He's statistically brilliant and he has intangibles. He's redefining the two-way player role and what it actually means. He's the first one.
he's the Nelson Mandela of hockey players, basically.
Already I'm chasing my own tail in regards to results and things like that, because I was looking at the Hurricanes for something we'll talk about a bit later, and I just missed the fact they lost already. They lost the game to the Blue Jackets. I didn't even know that result happened. And I check Twitter every single morning. It's the first thing I do. I wake up and then sort of while I'm sort of half getting awake, I just scroll onto Twitter and look at the hockey scores and stuff. Didn't even see that score. No idea it even happened.
It's the thing where as long as the team's on a run and winning or losing X amount in a row, you always hear about it. But as soon as that changes, a lot of Hurricanes losing one game, you never get the big alert. Oh my God, the Hurricanes are now 6-1. It's just as soon as you use whatever, nobody cares. Unless it's some crazy streak, maybe going 49 games in a row unbeaten.
Back in the grind. Let's get on with the show, shall we?
Let's have it.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's the Smooth Recap. Let me tell you something, Tony Schiavone. David Pasternak becomes the third member of an already elite club with his own 4-goal game, joining this season's ever-expanding Four Horsemen. Woo!
This is a public service announcement reminding all NHL fans we are only 2 weeks into the new season, and to advise against any rash behaviour in response to a team's poor start.
They'll always be compared, and while Jack Hughes has struggled so far, fans across New York are caca and cuckoo for Capo Caca, as he nets his first goal.
In spite of our previous announcement, the Dallas Stars have well and truly fucked it. Please visit the team store at American Airlines Centre to pre-order your Alexi Lafreniere jerseys.
Victor Bang & Olofsson is music to the Buffalo Sabres ears, as he set an NHL record as the first player to score his first 7 career goals on the power play.
Ryan Reeves is officially on the trade block after Mark Stone proved he's the big dog on campus by one-shotting Roman Josi. Word is Reeves will have to prove his worth as a first-line world-class winger after Stone has stolen his job as a heavyweight bruiser.
Petr Cech makes a winning start to his Guildford Phoenix debut as he saves the decisive shot in the shootout. John Terry, seen spotted in the stand in his full kit, ran onto the ice to celebrate with his former teammate.
I can only imagine the Avalanche's 5-0 start is due to the hockey gods feeling the need to mug me off for some previous transgression. All I can say to that is I'm not fucking sorry.
The post-game ritual of awarding players a trophy reaches dangerous levels as the Habs player of the game gets a sword. It's ironic, gifting the players a torture device, as they've been torturing their own fans with their honest performance for 25 years now.
So, Patrick Laine was right, hey?
And that was your smooth recap. Alright, there we go. Fucking hell, that Mark Stone punch. Jesus.
Yeah, mental. Absolutely mental. Like, why? I don't know why the fight started.
I don't know. I just saw they both kind of skate to each other at the front of the net, play carries on, and then that was it. And then 5 seconds later, that was it again, as Josi goes down.
This is it, like, if you asked me to pick 2 people to, from Knights Predators to have a fight, they'd have probably been at least, 18th and 19th on their teams, respectively.
Yeah, the bottom 20% for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's such an okay. Absolute thump.
Who's winning the cup this week for you?
Winning the cup this week will be the Winnipeg Jets, as Mark Scheifele and Patrick Laine are absolutely dominating.
That Laine kid's pretty good, isn't he?
He's all right. He's all right. He's finally getting that opportunity to flourish on the first line, which is very generous of Paul Maurice to give to him. With no sort of prior, niggling or any request or huff from the player. It's not like he's sulked in his native country for the entirety of the summer. And it's really paying off. It was a good gamble from the Jets coach there.
I'm hoping it's written into his new contract. He has to play a certain amount of minutes with certain players. I'd love it.
Like Scheifele is my centre or else my cap hit doubles.
Yeah, or something like that. Or my term halves or something.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be good.
Now, Will, I'm not one to blow my own trumpet, as you know.
No, because you got rich.
Or pat myself on the back. No, yeah, I'll pat myself on the back. But I did predict the Hurricanes would win the Metro last week. And someone, I won't say who, but their name rhymes with Will Everett, said I was crazy. Did you know, Will, since January the 1st, the Hurricanes have more wins than any other team?
That's really good, and it's especially handy for you that they've started handing out the President's Trophy 7 games into the season. So congratulations, Dan. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You should be
Thank you.
Very proud of yourself.
Who's getting relegated?
The team that are obviously getting relegated this week, Dan, are the Winnipeg Jets because they still don't have any defensemen.
That's so true. I may be touching on those same Winnipeg Jets a little bit later.
Yeah, good. Nice
getting relegated for me is the National Post, which is a newspaper in Canada, where a story that came out yesterday and then developed again today. I don't want to get into this too much because I feel that giving it press is kind of doing it somewhat of a disservice to the story they wrote. But former NHL player Donald Brashear had a story written about him. I won't go into particulars, but the National Post used a picture of a different black player, Georges Laraque. And like I said, I don't want to get into it too much, but fuck me. I don't I can't because it's just going to drive me mad. But Christ Almighty, just research, people. How hard is it to get facts straight and things like that? I've said this before. There are times when I will check things 5, 6, 7 times because I just go back and think, no, did I really check that right? Is that really the right, like a goalie save percentage, or how many goals a player scored, or like last week we talked about the DeBrincat-Strome thing at Ariotas. I must have gone back and redone those calculations 3 or 4 times, and I'm still not sure I did them right because I just kept thinking, no, that can't be right. And we're just 2 fucking goofs in England at bloody 9 o'clock at night. This is the National Post. And nobody at some point said, so that's the right player, is it? That's the right guy.
Yeah, but Dan...
Like, they just accepted it.
Getting things like save percentages and, even strength goals scored and stuff like that, getting that right is really important and has a long history of quite problematic issues arising when people, don't do their right research and jump to conclusions. Not like, picturing an ethnic minority NHL player, you don't have to be careful with that sort of stuff because there's no history of issue in that, and there's no deeper problematic causes for concern within the wider culture surrounding that topic. The thing that,
you're right. Good point. I never thought of it that way.
The thing that gets me about this is that really concerns me deeply. Apart from just the initial mistake by whatever copy editor puts in the photos, so they probably got it from an image library like Getty or something like that, yeah? I'm not sure whether it is Getty, but let's say it is Getty for a placeholder. So either...
Other image libraries are available.
Other image... And probably are, subject to the same issue. But so whoever went to look for this photo, went looking for a photo of Donald Brashear, either searched for, Canadians players, and then just saw the first image with a black person in and was like, right, that's got to be...
it had to be him. Who else could it be?
Or even more worrying, it goes further down the rabbit hole. They went onto your image library's website, typed in Donald Brashear, and it brought up a photo of George Larac. You know what I mean? It's just horrendous. So many different reasons for that mistake being awful.
And I didn't like the story either. Maybe I'm gonna have to say it. The story's about Donald Brashear now working at Tim Hortons. That was the story. Now, to me, I don't give a shit. The guy had an NHL career. He's still got to pay his bills and everything. All that kind of whatever. He's now got a real job. So fucking good on the guy for at least getting out there and doing something about it and trying to sort himself back out. I don't care about those stories. I know people who've fucking been on hard times and had to. I know people who've had lots of money and then lost. I know 2 people. I say people like it's 50. I know 2 people who've had a good job, lots of money, sort of crushing it in life, and they've just bad decision, bad investment, house has gone through the floor, whatever, and just lost everything and had to start again. And I always sympathise because to start again is it must be the fucking hardest thing. It must be the hardest thing, especially when you're in the public eye. So I never really enjoy reading those stories as kind of a, oh my God, look what he's doing now type thing. Because then, people have still got to eat. They've still got to pay bills. A job's a job at the end of the day. So, but right, yeah. And on every layer, this was just ridiculous.
And it's the framing of the story as well. Wyszynski tweeted out, instead of framing it for what it is, which is a man who fell on hard times and is now putting his life back together, which should be commended. Yeah, they're framing it in the tabloidist way that they possibly could.
All right, let's move on. How many starters you got?
I've got one. I've got one of each this week. Conservative.
I've got 1 and 3.
1 and 3. So 3 scratches this early in the season. Bloody hell.
Yeah, I'm already in the. I'm a complicated man. I'm already in my anger mode. Let's go.
Just want to get rid of everything. I want a sincere start. I'm going to start Mika Zibanejad because he's absolutely on fire. On fire. 8 points through. Yeah. 8 points in his first 2 games. A point in his third, which is a shame. I know it's early season and you can't. 8 points in 3 games isn't exactly sustainable, but love the way he plays and really hope that he carries on to have a big season, especially just to rub it in Eugene Melnick's face a bit more.
Yeah. I'm going to start a little image, a little video this week that we saw. It was Alex Ovechkin Jr. Sergei Ovechkin is the boy's name, at the game watching his dad. And I feel that we should keep this on file. We should keep this on record because at some point, little Sergei Ovechkin's going to grow up to an absolute powerhouse. He's going to be smashing in 50 a season. And we're going to all come back and go, oh my God, do you remember that time he went to his first Caps game and he tapped, and Ovi tapped on the glass and his son was there? This is nice. This is one of those little things I think, yeah, this is going to happen. You just know it.
In 30 years when he's knocking on breaking his dad's scoring record and we're all saying, oh yeah, and Sergei's doing it in a time when we've got robot defenders and the spikes are coming out of the ice and his dad never had to contend with that nonsense.
His dad never had to contend with, robotic linesmen and umpires and things like that and people calling in from Toronto to make decisions on the ice and things.
And his father played before the polar ice caps fully melted, and he never had to play underwater like poor Sergei does.
That's funny yet terrifying because it's true. Okay, yeah, I got 3 scratches. So my early season scratch, and as we always say, it's the second week of the season, but I don't care. Paying a goalie $10 million for an early pay-setting 872 save percentage isn't great. And while there is plenty of information to suggest that sometimes bad goals aren't always goalie's fault, Bobrovskys didn't look good the other night against the Devils because I watched that whole game and he looked shaky, shall we say.
There's the Panthers themselves haven't looked particularly good so far for
I know, bloody hell.
For a team that's effectively taken on the Hurricanes' mantle of next season, or should we say Coyotes? I don't know. Whoever it might be, we're going to compare them to. They're the team that everyone wants to pick, and maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't. $10 million, Jesus.
And
okay.
that's not too premature though, Dan, because that's the take you could have had on January 2nd, and it would have been absolutely you're spot on there.
I'm fairly sure we did in the off season when these things were happening, and we looked at the 4 goalies in the conference finals last season, and then we decided, maybe $10 million is a bit much for a goalie. I'm also going to scratch combined the Jets and the Wild after the Penguins scored 7 goals against them both, as the Penguins at this point are Crosby, Gensel, Letang and Murray, and then the under-11s filling in for the rest of the players. So I think to concede 7 against them is actually a sin. Well, I think it's in the 10 Commandments somewhere.
I was wondering why so many of the Penguins players were wearing full cages, but now it makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought they'd just gone full, skill and speed rather than size and grit, but no, it's just child labour at its finest.
Dude, how you conceded 7 goals to that Penguins team? Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't really want to think about it. All right, what have you got for a scratch? My single scratch this week is coaches. Just coaches who specifically underutilise or inappropriately deploy their young players, or don't deploy their skilled young players at all. Like David Quinn, not playing Vitaly Kravtsov, sending him down, and then him ended up getting scratched in the AHL, which is a bit perverse. One of the most talented young players outside of the NHL.
And he's come out today saying he might go back to Russia, hasn't he?
Exactly. And like the Dallas Stars mishandling Denis Gurianov, take it back to Josh Hosang getting waived recently. It's just mental. Like I can't list all of them because I guarantee every coach in the league has got at least one talented young player that should be in the lineup but isn't, and it's not only harmful for the league and the game of hockey itself, it's harmful for their own careers. Like it just I've had enough. Like friend of the show Micah put out a while ago, it was looking at like aging curves and stuff, and the line was something along the lines of, by the time a coach has realised a young player's good enough to play in the NHL, he's already past his peak or something like that. And
that's
we just see it again and again and again and again. Especially, and it's no coincidence that the 2 players that immediately spring to mind are Russian.
Dude, I was just going to wait for you to finish the sentence. I was going to say, how many of these players are good old Canadian boys?
Absolutely, well,
not very many.
That list I spurted out, you've got 2 Russians, and you've got a minority player. Like you couldn't make it up, could you?
Yeah. Let's not forget, by the way. I don't care that you've had to literally uproot your entire life for 18 years of age, come to a completely new country, learn a new language, change everything, the way you drive, food, friends, relationships. No, forget all that. You are not doing this thing with this puck, so fuck off down to a minor leagues and just enjoy it and like it. Tough.
Yeah, the league don't owe you nothing unless you're punching people in the face. Who's your last scratch, Mr. Masters?
unbelievably, if I'd have had this on a sweepstake, the option to choose 3 games into the season, I wouldn't have chose 3 games into the season. And what I'm talking about is, of course, a St. Louis Blues being bottom of the table, then winning the Stanley Cup reference. As Bruce Boudreau, after 3 games of this season, made that statement. I can't believe it's happened already. So obviously, like the Wild have had a bad start, and he was in the press conference after the 3rd game, and he said, well, the Blues were at the bottom last year and they ended up winning the Cup. So and I just thought, oh my God, we're 3 games in.
I seem to be
someone's already made that reference.
I think I'm in pre-season form still, but the problem is it's pre-season 2014, because I was looking at the standings and thinking, what's he talking about? The Ducks are second in the division. Like, they're doing all right. So the problem with the Blues comparison and analogies that we're going to hear hundreds more from, especially.
Yeah, I was going to say, the problem with comparing them to most teams is
as you well know, Dan, the Blues were good. The Blues had
they had a good team. They had good players on their good team.
Very good players. The problem was they had Jake Allen in net and a coach who was stupid, quite frankly. So what they did was they got rid of the stupid coach and very fortunately brought in who seems to be quite a good one, and managed to find the second coming of Scott Darling, who managed to hold on to his freakish form for the rest of the season, and that's how they won the Cup. It's not the likes of the Wild, the Kings, the Canucks. I'm going to put in that. I feel like we're going to get a Canucks at some point. Canadians are looking a little bit bluesy at the moment, and the Devils, who just don't have the horses, Dan. And even if you do have the horses, say the Sharks carry on like this, Sharks are bottom of the Pacific at the moment, if memory serves. Who have the Sharks got to call up for Martin Jones? Nobody at all. The Blues were such a freak combination of things that you're never going to see it repeated. Never, ever again. It's really going to annoy me having to hear that analogy at least another 5 times this year.
Yeah, Boudreau's already lamenting his players as well, like the squad around him, saying things like, well, I haven't got a magic potion to make them faster. Every team wants to be fast, but we're not, so we just got to play boring hockey. No shit, Bruce. No shit.
I don't necessarily mind that. Like, there's an element of honesty there, of just like, we're not fast, so we're gonna play to our strengths, sort of thing. But
I don't mind it. But 3 games in, he's already complaining. He's already got the defeatist attitude. Hey, there's only 79 games to go. Maybe win some of them.
Quite frankly, old Brucey should be happy that he still has a job 3 games into the season. Because some people haven't been that lucky, Dan.
Before we get on to our interview with Paul Campbell, esteemed goalie savant, and before we get on to the news, I do want to just say, please do rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your shows. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and coming up, we'll be on YouTube as well. I've changed the way we host our podcasts, so we're now with a new hosting service, which is called Red Circle, which is great. And a top review helps out 2 goofs like us produce more content for you, the fans. And I know it's a pain in the arse, and I know I used to be the worst person for doing this, but it is really important to independent shows. If you're listening to something produced by the BBC or NBC or whatever, they can go fuck themselves. They've got their money. They're doing fine. When you if you just go to the toilet or something, if you're having a dump, just take 2 minutes out while you're sat in there doing nothing. Just, as you're pinching a loaf, just jump on and give us the old 5 stars, which would be great. And this is absolutely crazy. God knows why you'd want to. You can also donate to the show now, which is hilarious, by going to Red Circle Podcasts, finding 2 Brits 1 Puck and clicking sponsor the podcast. Okay then, let's go on to Paul Campbell, a thoroughly good all-around chap. Okay, everybody. In light of my love of a cheeky 1-0 hockey game, and as a fan of all things low scoring, I thought we should have somebody on the show who's well versed in that side of the game. So please welcome on a writer for incl Media and a contributor to Sportsnet and The Athletic, and some would say a goaltending savant, Paul Campbell. Paul, how you doing?
Thanks. I appreciate being oversold at the beginning, and then I can let people down gently and gradually as the podcast continues.
No, I'm gonna build you up. I'm gonna build you up as you go along. That's the idea.
Oh my! There's nowhere to go from here, though. We started too high.
Oh no,
we peaked too soon.
Okay. I'll start you off with an easy one then. And this may be redundant asking a Canadian this question, but I'm always interested to hear, how did hockey find its way to you?
Oh, that's great. Dad was a hockey fan, and I remember, some of my earliest memories are just sitting on a couch in front of a really primitive color TV watching something I didn't understand, but it was hockey. And so, yeah, you're right, it's pretty pervasive here. So it's difficult to have a childhood that escapes hockey. And so it just gradually grew from there. My grandfather was a big hockey complainer, a fan, but mostly a complainer. And my paternal grandfather and Dad was similar, although less complainy and more of a true fan.
Cool. What was it then that drew you to joining the No Fun team and becoming a goalie? Because I've always found out, because I was a goalie as well, not in ice hockey, but I was a goalie in field hockey and a goalie in soccer. And I've always thought, for some reason, there was just something about being a goalie that drew me in. I didn't choose goalie. Goalie seemed to choose me. And I wonder if that's the same for you.
Oh, that's really, I love that way of putting it. I think there's something about goaltending that's magic. Do you play any role-playing games?
I do.
RPGs?
I played Dungeons & Dragons now and again.
Now, do you choose Wizard as your character class?
I do not.
Okay. I want to do a study, a very formal academic study, obviously, maybe on Twitter,
Yes.
to see what the correlation is between character type and position. Because I feel like goaltenders often have a personality type that draws them to magic, that draws them to being the person who is not quite like the others, who has these magical abilities that are in some ways very limiting and require a lot of support. But on the other hand, enable you to do something that other people can't do. And I've always felt like that from the first time I ever laid eyes on this weird-looking person standing in the net doing things that the others aren't doing. That for some reason that always drew me in. So I think that's the big connection for me. That was the person who was doing something that was incredible, that was different from everyone else, and that seems somewhat magical.
It is such a strange position because it can be. I think if a goalie does well, they're kind of unnoticed. Yet one mistake on the ice, and you let a goal in, and that's it, and everyone crucifies you. And there is a very high risk, not seemingly much reward. So unless you stand on your head and make 50 saves, obviously that's different. But that seems to be forgotten if the next night you let in a softie. Yeah,
and I find that even within a game, you could be playing lights out, absolutely incredible, and then you give away the puck and the other team scores. Then you lose 1-0. You've just made 45 saves, but that one gaffe seems to negate the perception of the quality of your play for the entire game. And then there's a lasting effect. So the next game goes and people are like, well, should we give him the puck? Can he actually play? This happens especially at the lower levels, obviously, not so much in the higher levels. But I've always found that the kinds of mistakes you can make as a goalie are so massive that they can undo a really good run of good play.
With that in mind, then, I'm not saying you ever have, of course. I wouldn't cast aspersions on your goaltending ability. But if you've ever let in a softie, are you the kind of person who wants your team to just leave you alone and let you work it out in your own head? Or do you want them to come and pat on the back and say, it's okay, man, let's just carry on, it's fine.
Yeah, in a competitive environment. So, a very recent example, obviously I'm not playing at any level right now, but I play a rec game and then I play a league game. And at the rec game, obviously it's no stakes, whatever happens, happens. When the stakes are higher, it's really nice to have someone come back and just give you a tap in the pads, for me. It doesn't matter, what they say. No one has to give me any advice. Don't do that. Never do that. Advice is the exact if you're a hockey player, don't go back and tell your goaltender what he or she should have done differently, because that is absolutely not helpful. But an encouragement, a tap in the pads. Last game, a buddy of mine came over and said, "Hey, shake it off, Zen Garden, let's go." But it's kind of a weird thing to say, but it set me at ease, right? It sort of puts things into perspective. So I find that helpful. But do ask your goalie, right? If you're playing in a pretty good league, see what your goalie likes. You can usually also tell by their reaction. So they'll give you a nod, whatever. If they don't make eye contact with you and just stare down at the ice and sort of look like a little huffy, maybe just stay away. You sort of give it a read, right? So read the room. And see where you stand, because most goalies tend to be consistent, with their own practice in that regard. But from goalie to goalie, things differ. So I appreciate a tap, but some guys might not want that.
It was interesting what you say about, because I'm an only child, and I've often wondered if that's what drew me to being a goalie, because you don't practice obviously with the other players really. in any kind of sport, you have your own little practices, your own routines. You're not doing the same things everyone else is doing on the ice. Of like pretty much 98% of everybody else on the ice is doing the same thing, and you're just stood there, obviously having pucks dinged off you. I wondered if there was like an only child thing, or I don't know, something like that.
Well, what I've been noticing over at incl, they do a podcast, and they interview goaltenders, usually pro goalies, and they ask them how they got their start. And there are a few ways that goaltenders sort of very commonly get their start, and one of them is the younger sibling phenomenon. So you end up being you want to play with the big kids, but you can't really go out there and whack the ball around, and they don't really want you. However, none of them wants to be a goalie. So you end up being the goalie so that you can go out and play with your older siblings. And that's a really, really common phenomenon. I think half the goalie stories that I've heard, even from these pros, said that, I want to play, I wanted to play, and my older brother stuck me in net, and I ended up really liking it. So I find that's common. As far as only siblings, I don't know. I haven't seen any correlation, but I think there's enough variety that these things happen. Like I'm an oldest, and I ended up being the goalie, so it's not 100%.
Okay.
But I think being a younger sibling is something that happens quite often.
Yeah. So I guess then as well, if your older brother puts you in net, and he has a great shot and you make a great save, you get that feeling of, oh my God, I just saved it from my older brother. I must be like Zeus or something. Like, you get that massive, like that rush, that euphoria, I guess.
Well, it's magic. You get to be included with the older kids, which is already a big deal. And then you get really good because your brother, your sister, 2, 3, 4 years older, right? And so you're facing shots from a very young age from much more talented shooters. And that's a recipe for success, so long as you can do it, right? So long as you aren't overwhelmed and aren't injured in the process, so long as they're not too much better. And so you're always playing a little bit above your level at home, and that can translate into good things, right, on the ice. When you're playing against your peers, things tend to seem a lot easier.
Yeah, very true, very true. So let's have a little quick look at the NHL. I was wondering about Michael Neuwirth in Toronto, and I know it's been reported that he was injured, whereas first it wasn't being reported that he was injured. Is there any situation, do you think, where, as a goalie, he may have gone into that and just thought, this is not the right fit? Or could you imagine a situation where something like that, where a goalie goes into a team on a PTO and he just thinks, you know what, this isn't right, I'm not in the right headspace? Because it's more mental, isn't it, than anything else? So I was wondering if that could be the case.
I mean, it's always possible that if you're a goalie and you don't have a ride for the season, I think that's stressful. I think Neuwirth is a solid goaltender, and he has been throughout most of his career, but he's been injured, right? There have been a few. We were talking about notable gaffes earlier. There have been a few notable gaffes that have just taken his stock down dramatically, requiring him, right, at injuries and requiring him to be needing a PTO at this point in his career. So it's possible that he got to camp, almost like Bufflin this year, got to camp and was like, whoa, I don't know if I want to be doing this anymore. So that's always a possibility. But if he's interested in playing and he's on a PTO, I think it's really unlikely that he saw this as a bad fit and decided to opt out, because his options at this point are very limited. So while it's always possible, if he wants to play in the NHL this year or near the NHL this year or have a chance to get back there, I think he had to turn in a good performance here and make it roll, because he might not get another. It's unlikely he's going to get another crack this early, at least this early season.
That is true. I went back and looked at his earnings, and he's made about $18 million over his career. So I guess he doesn't really need the money. He can go back to the Czech Republic and live like a king if he wants to, I suppose. So
I worry so much about these guys, though, because, well, I know for me, when I was a student, I lived like a student, right? And that amount of money was going to sustain me. Then when I have a little more money now, so I'm okay. But imagine you're thinking you were going to have millions of dollars every year for the next decade or 15 years, and then nope. I hope he's budgeted. I always hope these guys are really like that. They have a really good plan to at least live like a regular person after their careers, even if things get cut short. Because man, that would be difficult to go from living like a multimillionaire to living like, well, from on essentially nothing or very little. That would be really tough.
It's so true. Yeah, my wife has a much more stressful, well-paid job than me. She makes a fortune compared to what I make, and she says to me, like, do you never want to make any more money? And I said, why? Because we just spend it. Like, instead of having one foreign holiday, we'd have 2 or 3. Instead of having these cars, we'd have bigger cars. You end up just living to your means, don't you? And I guess you're right. If you suddenly have millions and millions of dollars, you start thinking, oh, great, I've got millions of dollars. I'll go and spend millions of dollars.
We're able to calibrate so easily that they come out with these articles in the New York Times and Washington Post, especially the New York Times, and it'll be a profile of someone who's making $400,000 and barely getting by. And then you look, you're like, oh, you do have 3 vacations in a year. You have 4 weeks of paid vacation, which in the States, where most of these people are, is quite a lot.
Yeah.
You have your retirement plan fully stocked. You know, they're doing great. They just happen to be spending all their money, right? So it's not that they're barely making it. It's that they're really well set up and they've budgeted really well so that they're spending what they make. And I think all of us tend to be like that unless there's some other factor that causes you to be more frugal or to want to put money somewhere else, right? Or to give some money somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true. You always hear about in this country about soccer players who find themselves going bankrupt or in massive debts. And there was one who I won't name, but you can find this out if you look into it online. Mm-hmm. But he got into a situation where he owed so many people so much money that he was hiding in snowdrifts at Christmas because there were people knocking on the door for money. And I was thinking, oh my God, like, you are making tens of thousands of pounds a week. How are you in this situation? And then he did an interview years later. And he said, well, yeah, I had like millions of dollars, but I was living like I had tens of millions of dollars.
Yep.
And he said, I just kept thinking, well, the money's always going to keep rolling in. It will always keep rolling in. And obviously at some point, then it just stops. And how do you then go from having all that money to not having that money coming in all the time?
And it's so sudden, right? Very few players. And the NHL has started to get better at this. They've started to do post-career counseling in a much more earnest and sincere way so that players can start getting involved a lot sooner, because you spend your whole life pursuing this career, and most of these players have really dedicated their entire existence to this. They've foregone, university. They've, instead of going to high school, a lot of these players have, taken sort of private education while or tutor education while they've done their junior hockey. And so they're like a missile aimed at one end. And when they achieve it, that's amazing. Then they make all this money, and then by the time they're 30, 35, maybe 40, right? If you're an exception, you're done. A lot of people are just starting their careers in earnest at that age. They've finished their education training. They've gone through the apprenticeship levels, and finally, they're 40 and they're really established in the career. And for NHL players, they're finished. So what do you do, right? And I think it's fantastic that former players in the NHL itself is finally getting serious about helping players after their careers, because no one's taught them how to do this. No one's taught them how to do anything but play hockey. And so transitioning into a new line of work, into broadcasting, learning how to manage your money, all these things are so important, and they get overlooked by the players who don't have that foresight, who've never been given the education that they need to really contemplate these things seriously.
Will and I have joked, kind of semi-seriously on the before, but being in a professional sports team that's the national sport, it's almost like being in the army. Because you're so ingrained in that system and in that style. How do you then go from, okay, it's Monday, we've got a game today, you've got a weekend road trip, off to California, back next week, then we've got practice, and blah, 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 blah. How do you then just go to nothing? How, your day is not regimented anymore. You've not got people, essentially, because hockey players as well, like, you have somebody telling you what to do all the time. Your coach will say to you, you need to be here, you need to do this. GMs on the phone, sponsorship deals, going to hospitals, all that kind of thing to meet, children and all that kind of stuff. And then to go from that to, well, now you've got to decide your own life. Like, that must be insane. It must be such a mess around in your head. Like, I don't know how they cope with it.
Well, I mean, think about some players, right, who have been just fantastic, who have retired and then come out of retirement. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's that. You think, well, I'm finished with the game, I'd like to do other things. And then you realize, holy smokes, I miss this a lot more than I thought. I rely on this a lot more than I thought. A really well documented one back in the day was Guy Lafleur, who retired. I mean, this is back in the 70s, when there was nothing for players afterwards unless they got an ambassadorship or something with the team, and they didn't make that much money. So he went into retirement thinking it was a good time, and then realized he missed the game. His whole life was the game, and he was completely unprepared. So he returned. And that's not, I think it's becoming a bit less common. in part because it's harder to get to the level you need to be again. But I think that speaks to that's a symptom of that. And I'm hoping that things are going to improve. But if you aren't prepared for the end, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you shift. Your sense of identity, your sense of self is so moored in that training, in that being a player, that you have to find yourself. You have to find who you are when you're not playing hockey. PK Subban said something when he was traded. Actually, just before that, when he made that incredible pledge to the Children's Hospital in Montreal, he said, I am a hockey player. This is something that I do, but it doesn't define me entirely. It's not at the core of my identity, right? I'm something beyond that. And I thought, some people criticized him for that, but I thought for a young guy to know this, to know who he is beyond hockey is really important. And it bodes well for him, in years to come beyond the game.
I've often wondered as well, I'm always very sympathetic towards the wives and girlfriends as well of our hockey players. And I sometimes think as well, like, you've lived, as a wife or a girlfriend, you've lived your life a certain way, and now your husband retired, and now he's just under your feet all day. And they must be just like, oh my God, will you just please go back to the practice facility and do something? You're driving me mad. Like, just get out of this house. I'm sick of the sight of you. Like, I can't be doing with this. I've not seen you for 20 years, and now you just turn up every day. Like, you're driving me crazy. That
whole family transition is nuts. I remember at the last NBA lockout, I forget which spouse it was, but both she and the player said they were really happy when the lockout ended. Because at first there's that honeymoon novelty, right? Of like, now we get to spend time together. And then you realize, oh, this is just like the daily grind. And you've had no place here for all these years. And now you're trying to insert yourself in my systems. The transition. I'd really like to hear about how things are going for Luongo right now. Because he's been, he's been playing forever. He retired. And now he's at home. So I'm looking at the Strombone one account, and I'm hoping to see some more updates about how his transition to domestic life is going, because I'm sure it's both frustrating but also hilarious.
Yes. So, as you previously mentioned, a young Paul Campbell sat in front of the TV watching people in Friday the 13th masks do crazy things. Who was the goalies that you were watching back in the day when you were young and thinking, oh yeah, that's the guy. Like, that's the guy. Who was it?
Well, really early on, I was a Canadiens fan. I inherited that from at least two generations. I can't verify any further.
Yeah.
Steve Penny was the goalie for the Canadiens initially. And I remember thinking, okay, this guy's great. He's the Canadiens goalie. He looks cool. And then this other guy, Steve Penny, got hurt. And then this other kid comes up, and I'm like, oh, I really want to see Steve Penny play. But this Patrick Waugh guy has started playing at the end of the season, and it looks like he's going to play in the playoffs. And then from there, I was done. I was sold. I was a Patrick Waugh. I was his biggest fan. The things that he was doing were unlike anything I'd ever seen before. He was young. He was weirdly aggressive. He just had a certain swagger that was absolutely captivating, and he was great. He was so great. He played for the team that I loved. It was basically a no-brainer for me to sort of be a really early devotee to Patrick Waugh and that whole cult of personality that developed around him. And he was fantastic. So it was just a joy to watch him when I was younger.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? In NHL, is it's that kind of keep your head down, keep your mouth shut and your ears open, and then sometimes when players will come out and say the odd thing now and again, that's it. You just think, oh, this is what we need. We need this. It's definitely missing, and I wonder if that's going to change. Or players do seem to be opening up now to the media more, don't they? And I know the NHL is trying to, with these god-awful puck personality videos that they produce. That are just, oh my God. It's like going to an open mic night or something. You're just like, oh, Jesus. Can someone edit these better or something? Because they're just so cringeworthy. But I hope that side of the game does start to come out more. Because that, to me, that's what drives, that's what will drive fan bases, is more personality show.
Oh, I agree. Back in the day, there was so little, this is in the 80s, obviously, there was so little media access to players directly. It was all filtered through very careful channels. So I knew Patrick Waugh had an interesting personality because of the way he presented himself on the ice. So it was mostly on ice where you got to see this. And that's a rare thing to be able to do, to be able to do your job at the very highest level and still be able to show your character, still be able to show your personality, and to show that you're having fun. Fleury is another goalie who can do that these days. He's a lot less angry than Patrick Roy was, and a lot less fiery, but his passion is so strong, and his charm is so great, and his joy is palpable. So I love guys who can show it on the ice in those really positive ways. Now I think you're going to see a lot more player personality when players have it, because they have direct access to fans. So P.K. Subban is a great example. He is working on his brand. He has a great social media presence, right? Luongo, in his own way, started showing an aspect of his personality that he couldn't, right, in his work environment. So I love the direct access. The problem is, when you ask for more personality, you get whatever the player is going to bring. And so sometimes that's fantastic, and you feel overjoyed, and you just love what you're hearing. And other times you're going to hear things that are kind of despicable or at least objectionable, and then you go back to wishing that you didn't have such direct access to this player's thoughts, because then you understand what they are beyond a hockey player, and sometimes that isn't positive.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. Yeah, I guess for every time there's a good message out there with players doing something cool or saying something funny or wacky, there is the other side of it that we hear, obviously, where things don't go great. Who are you looking forward to then this season, goaltending-wise? Any goalies we should be looking out for that you think are due for a big year, or that you think can break out? Or maybe any goalies that you think, that's it now, they're going to sort of, downturn, they're on the regression?
Yeah. A guy who for the last few years has been the heir apparent in Nashville is UC Saros.
Yes.
Little bear. And I think here's the thing. Rene looked like he was on the decline, at least in part from injury. He had those hip surgeries, then the infection, and then the recovery from that. And it looked like he was declining quickly. It looked like he was being propped up by a really solid defense and a great team. And it looked like he was going to fade quietly into the night. Saros was positioned exactly to take over. That hasn't happened. And I'm really pleased for Rene that hasn't happened, because he's had a career resurgence. His team arguably isn't as strong defensively as it had been, and he's playing great. He's been in the conversation of those top goaltenders again, and deservingly so. So Saros is just waiting and waiting and waiting, and he's been playing well. He's been playing consistently. Technically, he's just so good. I watch him, and I am looking for clips sometimes of really great saves, and then I'm not finding them with him. So I go back and I look at a sequence, and he'll stop 4 shots, within the span of about 6 seconds. And each one of them is just a work of art. And the transitions between each save, each of them is so crisp and so efficient. And he's tiny for an NHL goalie. He's 5'11". Maybe he's really 5'10". And it's masterful. He's practicing his craft in a way that makes normal-sized people sort of take heart. Hey, maybe this is physically possible for someone who isn't 6'7", 6'5" to do. So he's a guy I'm always watching for, and I'm hoping that he's going to get a significant number of starts this year, break the 30 to 35 start barrier, and start to establish himself as at least a tandem partner for Rene. Hopefully this happens without Rene getting injured, which I'm certainly not wishing for, because I've really enjoyed following his career too. So that's a guy I think could take a real step forward. Not that he's ever played poorly, really. He's always carried the ball pretty well when he's been given the opportunity. But I'd really like to see him instantiate himself as a potential, as an actual guy who's capable of starting in this league.
So is that what after your work with Athletic, you use video analysis? Is that what you're looking for? Is it not, obviously not just saves, but the transitions, how they place themselves, that kind of thing? Yeah,
I'm thinking of doing a segment somewhere this year. I haven't decided, but it would be a little things segment, a little saves segment. So everyone wants to break down the big saves, the big goals, right? They want to show these highlights, get people excited, and that's great, right? But sometimes these small movements, when they point to larger habits that have an effect on a goalie's game. So a lot of hockey is luck, obviously. If a puck hits a defender, hits an opposing forward, then switches direction again, and one of the opposing forwards is on the post waiting for the puck, and it hits their stick and goes in. What are you going to do, right? No amount of technical know-how, no amount of desperation is going to stop that puck very often. But if you look at a goalie's work in sum, and you notice the way that they're moving, you notice how they move from one place to another. You notice how they transition from one kind of save to another, one kind of like from a post position to the sort of a how do they get up to the point, and so on. If you look at these small things in between the saves, that tells you more about the potential quality of a goalie and sort of their enduring quality, in my opinion, than the actual saves that they make. Performance is important. You have to make the saves. You have to not let in the goals, obviously. Yeah. But all these guys are at a very similar level, and it's by looking at these in-between save things that tells you more than anything else.
I have to ask you the following question as a Canadians fan, but it relates to another player as well. Obviously, the Carey Price Bobrovskys contracts, and I guess as well in some case the Vasilevsky contract that kicks in next year. Would you ever say you're a GM, a goalie or an agent comes to you and says, "Okay, my guy had a 920 last year, 925. He wants $10 million, $9.5 million. Are you giving that goalie that contract? Or are you saying, you know what, it's fine, I can spend that money better elsewhere?
So, short answer, no. I might lose my membership in the goalie union for this, but for a goaltender to actually, and this happens with all kinds of players, so I don't want to just throw goalies under the bus. Usually people are a contract behind. So you get the contract today that you probably deserved 3 to 5 years ago. But you can't pay people retroactively, right? You can't say, well, here was your performance, and we're going to pay you for that. Except people do, right? So they look back and say, this is your performance over these years. This is the kind of money that you likely deserve. And that makes a lot of wild assumptions, including that the player is going to produce at that level, which we have no reason to believe, right? Especially when the player's 30. So once someone hits 29, 30, 31, 32, it starts to become really questionable whether you should be handing out contracts of that length. For goaltenders, someone I might have considered Vasilevsky, not so bad because he's literally in his prime. He's a relatively young guy. He's on the better side of 30. That's who you invest in. If someone had offered John Gibson a massive contract a year ago, 2 years ago, that would have been interesting because that might have been a worthwhile contract. He's very likely to live up to the contract because he's not going to be declining for a long time. So you're more certain, and as far as this is a game of uncertainty, you're more certain on that bet than you are with older guys. Carey Price got paid for his previous performance. He got paid for that season, especially when he won all the awards. And so I believe the players do deserve to be rewarded for their performances, but rewarding someone for 8 years who is on the wrong side of 30, do you think that everyone's going to be like a Hasek who's going to be able to play till 40, right? You can't give a guy that massive a cap hit. You can't take that massive a cap hit that far into the future. That even happened to Luongo when he was in Vancouver. He had a big contract, certainly wasn't a giant or an albatross, and he was still a very good goaltender. But Vancouver decided when they had Schneider there, well, maybe Luongo's expendable. Maybe we can trade him. And then to trade him was a Herculean task because he had a relatively large contract. He was still very good. He still was worth the money that he was getting. But teams were reluctant to take a hit that big. And it makes sense, right? Is the guy going to get injured? Is the guy going to need to retire? Are we going to have to absorb this cap hit ad infinitum? I think he retired this year, and Vancouver's taking a cap hit for that. So even though maybe he was worth the money, the fact that other GMs aren't willing to take the same risk you did, and the fact that you're going to be on the hook for that cap recapture at the end is a major disincentive for me to give a goaltender that age that kind of a lengthy contract.
Yeah, no, I agree. You make a good point, actually, about goalies being paid as a position and more for their previous work than other players are. Mm-hmm. I've never thought of it that way. That's a fantastic point. One other thing before we wrap up, I wanted to mention Robin Lehner, who obviously bounced back last year. Great story. Goes to the Hawks. How do you think he's going to do in that new system? Do you think we're going to see the same success, or was he more more success because of obviously the Barry Trotz system?
So I think you're going to see him have a good season in Chicago. I don't think you're going to see him replicate his success in New York. Now, Varlamov, I'm confident that he's going to have a really good season this year. People are going to say, "Wow, he's really turned it around. That's amazing." No, look at Jaro Halak, who's one of my favorite goalies. If you want to talk about a guy who's been consistently underrated in his career, that's a guy.
Yeah,
he does well wherever he goes. I was looking at he had one I think, a 16 or 17 game stretch in St. Louis where he had a really bad save percentage. Otherwise, he's been consistently, hovering from the 915 to 920 area. He had an abysmal season with New York the year before. Just awful. I think he was in the 8s in his save percentage. But it didn't tell the whole story because systemically the team was bleeding very high danger chances.
Yeah.
So take a step forward. Oh, look. He ends up this is in then he goes to Boston, has an absolutely fantastic season behind that team. Grice had an abysmal season with Halak in New York, and then comes out and ends up backing up a laner, and they sort of tandem, and they both have almost identical numbers, right? Well, wait, you have the same guy in the same system playing, 30 save percentage points, 25 save percentage points higher. The guy who was his partner goes to another organization and has a lights-out phenomenal season in his tandem role as well. Wait a minute, right? Is this the goaltender just suddenly, realizing himself 2 goalies? Or is this the system? And if you put a good goaltender in a good system, they're going to play well. They're going to play a lot better, especially if you're fit for that system. So I think that's what we're seeing, and I think that you're going to have to see a regression from later this year because Chicago does not bring what New York brought last year. So I'd be a lot higher on Varlamov this year if you're looking to maximize your like fantasy results, for instance. I think Varlamov is going to be someone to watch, someone who's going to really exceed expectations, someone who people are probably sleeping on. And I think Lehner, I think he's going to do fine, but I don't think he's going to have that kind of success.
Actually, I lied. One last more little question.
Sure. Because
you're a goalie, any superstitions?
Love it. I did. So I had a range of superstitions that involved the way that I would get on the ice and skate around, the way that I would end the warm-up, right? I would go, I'd tap my post a certain way. I would go into the corner always the same way. I would turn the same way. When I was watching hockey games, I would sit on the couch in a certain position, especially if it was the playoffs. I would have my equipment around me and have my water, and I would have, I would wear the same shorts, and I had a whole realm of superstitions around sport, around hockey, and around goaltending. However, as I've aged and become a dire, cold-hearted cynic, enthralled to materialism and science, I've decided that I probably am actually harming myself in some way because, and I think this happens to this day with even pro goalies. They talk about their superstitions, and if you get really hung up on a routine, if the one day you can't do the thing you need to do, or you screw it up, you've set yourself, you've given yourself a self-inflicted wound that was entirely unnecessary. Whether or not this routine has helped you in the past is debatable, but the minute that it can't happen, if you're really hung up on it, forget it. You've just shot yourself in the foot. And so no, I'm trying to wean myself away from all superstition, even as a fan or as someone who has a rooting interest in any game. I'm like, no, I'm going to intentionally break the pattern that I established last time, so that I don't think that that's going to lead to something this time, something positive. So no, I'm getting away from superstition.
I did the same. You mentioned item of clothing. I did the same with a T-shirt. Is that if I was watching a soccer game, if my team was playing, I would wear a certain T-shirt, and then if they lost, I would still wear the T-shirt the next time. And my wife would say, "Why are you wearing that T-shirt? What's my lucky T-shirt?" They lost last week, and I went, "Yeah, but that was different." Like I was making excuses for a piece of clothing. Like this T-shirt's got a hold over me. What am I doing with my life? I'm making excuses for the T-shirt.
That's great. You name the shirt. You console it after your wife was critical. There, T-shirt. There, it's okay. She didn't mean it.
Them next time. Oh, fabulous. Okay, as we wrap up then, anything you want to promote, Paul? Please put yourself out there.
Oh, sure. Listen, I probably work most closely with incl Media. I've been there the longest of all the established places that I've been working. So if you go online, you can go to inclmedia.com, and I'll have various articles there throughout the year. We have a lot of fantastic new things on the horizon there as well. So look for some really interesting changes there that are going to be beyond anything we've done in the past. So that's something I'm really excited about. The podcast there as well. The incl Radio podcast is a great listen. If you're into goaltending at all, it's absolutely indispensable. They talk about quality. They talk about the NHL, obviously, but they talk about all aspects of positioning, nutrition. They have guests on who are just absolute gurus in these areas, and equipment as well. They have a weekly equipment segment if you're looking to get geared up. Finally, I guess not finally, but also you can look for me at The Athletic. I'm writing primarily for the Montreal site this year. So if you're interested in the Habs, then The Athletic is a great place to find me. And with any luck, we'll have some more deep statistical stuff and analytical stuff happening at Sportsnet as well. So that's where I'll be this year. And on Twitter, obviously, constantly at Way to Go Paul. So that's my Twitter handle, Way to Go Paul, after a very famous vine.
Fabulous. There we go. Cheers, Paul. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much. It was great talking.
Okay. Thank you to Paul. A good chat as always. We're going to have some more interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're recording another one on Sunday, which should be very interesting. But, Will, let's get on to the news, shall we?
Let's.
I do want to have a little quick talk about the Carolina Hurricanes.
Moves it in on a cycle for Eric Holla. DeZingle in back of the goal. Ryan DeZingle holding onto it. Centering pass. They score! That's hockey, baby! What a feed from Ryan DeZingle to Martin Necas. For the strike, and the Hurricanes break the ice. Knocked down by Kopitar, wedged along by Aho beautifully. It's a foot race. Walker gets there ahead of Aho. It's turned over though. Teravainen scores! Hey, what do you say?
There was a story by Emily Kaplan on Rod Brindamore, which was really, really good, really in-depth. Made me chuckle in a few places. Great writing. I think great writing is something that's it's a bit of a lost art now, actually, I think, in media. Because everything's obviously, go to video, just put it on Twitter, all this kind of thing. But Emily Kaplan did a really good story on him and his kind of mentality around what he brings to the Hurricanes. I think that the most interesting thing was that you don't always have to coach a certain way to get the best out of players. Now, if you've got a coach who say, I don't know, like Joel Quenneville or something, players will listen to what he says because they look at him and think, well, this guy's won it all multiple times. So he knows what he's talking about. I should listen to him. You can also bring in a coach who's been with the team for years, knows the systems, knows all the ins and outs, knows all the players, and the players will play for him. Then there's a coach like Brindamore, who is literally a guy who will say, okay, go and do this thing like I'm going to show you how to do it right now. Because the players were saying, he gets us in at, whatever time to do these tests on these stationary bikes and things like that. And he's already done it. So he's already been there since like 6 a.m, absolutely crushing these stationary bike drills. And he's like stood there, just sweating profusely going, all right, boys, now it's time for you to do it. And they're all like, well, I guess if he's done it, I'd better do it. And some of the players said that only half the team managed to pass the tests that he'd done already.
I think the interesting thing about this, not an experiment, but like it could prove to be a really good example of how to hire your coaches moving forward. So like the Hurricanes are a predominantly young and skilled team, and it's effectively like having that sort of veteran presence in the room. A true pro, as they say, someone who knows how to do things right, can set a good example for the young players, but he doesn't take up a roster spot. So you get all the positives of having like that kind of player on your team, but you're not forced to play him and then have him be a negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Hurricanes are skilled enough that, like, not saying that Brindamore isn't tactically sort of savvy, but he doesn't necessarily need to be as tactically savvy because they're very high skilled, and what he's doing is putting instilling that discipline into them and showing them how to play the right way and all that nonsense, and not being a drag on the ice. So it's hard to say whether that's what is actually happening behind closed doors and stuff like that, but I think it'd be an interesting way to look at head coaching moving forward for, I don't know, maybe a team like the Leafs or something, or even like the Coyotes or someone like that.
Yeah, that's true. It'd have to be a team who had a forward-thinking GM, not an old school. It ain't going to fucking work with Lou, is it?
I want to see Lou on a...
Do you know what I mean?
Like Brindamore versus Lou on a stationary bike test. But that said, like,
exactly,
I think it is a relatively perfect storm with Brindamore because he was such an athletic freak as a player, sort of thing. I'm sure there are plenty of players who retired the same year he did who aren't anywhere near as good shape as he is. Let alone your sort of older hockey minds, such as your Hitches, your I don't know, Daryl.
Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah, Bruce Boudreau. There you go. I was going to say Daryl Sutter, but I reckon Daryl Sutter's pretty tonk from like dragging around combine harvesters on the farm and stuff.
They said as well that he basically walks around the entire sort of office area with a weight of a 30-pound vest on all the time.
Of course he does.
Like he just constantly working out. Even when he's sitting down, he's working out because he's got like it's like 30-pound vest on.
Mate, you know who'd be a good hire to test this theory out? Jaromir Jagr.
That picture of him today. Oh my god!
But I haven't even seen it. What?
You don't see it? He's absolutely Find this picture now. I want your live reaction.
Is it Jagr on Broadway? No, that's from 2 days ago. How?
Jagr on something. I think he's on the Bergevin diet. If you know what I'm saying.
Oh, is he? Is he tonk? Hold on. Let me get my twits up. Oh, here we go. Oh my god.
There you go.
Jesus Christ.
Dude's 47. He looks like that.
He's still got a young man's face as well, actually.
He looks like in that. He looks like he's a dad in a film, and the dad's son has been kidnapped, and he's a one-man wrecking crew on his way to get him back.
Oh, well,
or something like that.
Like Taken. Like Taken
kind
crossed
of,
with Rambo.
I was going to say it's like Jaromir Wick or something.
Jaromir Wick. You're getting on my wick now. That's mental. But yeah, he would. If anyone's going to be able to produce that apart from Rod the Bod, it's got to be Jagr, isn't it?
Yeah, and like you say, that's the thing. Like, I had this, as crazy as it sounds, years ago when I was playing footy, we had sort of different managers and stuff, and if some of them were, shall we say, on the portly side or a bit larger than your average gentleman, and they tell you to like run around the pitch 5 times, you'd always be like, why don't you fucking run around the pitch, you fat bastard? Because you just be annoyed. So you just go to that. So if you've got a coach who's coming in saying, right, that's it, come on, let's go do some skating drills, you're just thinking, all right, Tubby, why don't you do it? Why don't you show me what to do? I bet you can't do it, can you? Whereas Brindamore's just like, he's just crushing all these people.
He's like,
and he does it himself all right. Yeah, exactly. He comes in and says, all right, boys, we're going to go and lift cars and punch rocks with our hands. You know he's already been doing it for 2 hours already, just to prove a point.
And then
like
hevier cars
all the players
and
are like, well,
rocks,
better do
he's
it.
going to make you punch.
Yeah, exactly.
So have you seen him doing that face-off drill? It's just like, bam, 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 bam. You could just like, you can't even hear it, but you know he's going, again. Absolute drill sergeant.
But yeah, that's the thing. See, when it comes to coaching, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think in this comparison, Brindamore's skinning the cat by ripping it to pieces with his bare hands.
He's just eating it.
And you have to give them credit. I think you have to give the Hurricanes credit because, as we said last week, joking aside, you made the point that, yeah, they'll be okay. Maybe they won't be that great. And here's the thing. Teams are now looking at the Hurricanes thinking, okay, this is a legit team now. I mean, last year, I don't know if maybe through the whole season, teams were looking at them thinking, all right, everyone else has been run over by these guys, but we know what they're really about. They're just a bunch of fucking have-a-go Larrys messing about, storm surge, all that bullshit. We'll play real hockey and we'll beat them. And the same thing's happening this season. Teams are like really going in now against Hurricanes and trying to give it their all, and they just can't. They can't keep up with them at the moment.
It's the thing where they're still on the upswing, like
they're still upswinging.
Andrei Svechnikov he's on his second year, and he seems to have worked it out, as they say, Dan. On an absolute tear. It's still like Teuvo Teravainen's still young. This new kid, Martin Nechkas. It's like bloody.
I got it as Nachas.
It's like Thomas Rositzky all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You're right.
He seems to be all right, doesn't he? He's still only like 2021. Even like the new players they've brought in, like Eric Haller and Ryan Zingle, like, it's a piss take. It really is.
I tell you, Tom Dundon. We had a little bit of a joke, didn't we? But he seems to be doing the right things.
I think it's
and Jake like a player like Jake Gardner taking a discount suite just to go there. It's now like okay, well maybe players actually want to go and play there now. It's not just seen as kind of I'll go to Carolina, chill for a few years, make a few million. That'll do. Players are thinking, actually no, this is decent. I could do something here with this team.
It's been said ad infinitum, but it's Eric Tulsky. Eric Tulsky is the man who's absolutely running the show over there. I forget what his new title is. Director of. So he's basically the analytics guru, but like he seems to have, the trust of Dundon and potentially the respect of the rest of the, at least enough trust or enough respect, whatever combination it is, to be able to have a serious input. So the genius thing that Tom Dundon's doing is listening to the people he hires, rather than just hiring a GM and saying, right, you do whatever, do your thing, and then giving that GM sort of absolute power. It's takes a village approach sort of thing, committee approach to building this team, and especially with the valued input of Tulski that's leading to their continued success.
Tulski's probably just a $5 Patreon member on Micah's website. He's probably just... he's just doing what we say. Look at the data sheets. No, he's no good. No, he's no good. No. Wow, plus 10%. Yeah, sign this guy. He's really good. And that's as simple as that.
Right.
It's not difficult.
You'll know that if they trade for Luke Glendenning midway through the season. That's the that's the litmus test on that one.
So, can you tell us why you've traded a first for Luke Glendenning? Yeah, none of your goddamn business. I'm keeping it secret.
Don't fucking
Interesting,
ask.
Okay. Those are some funny red and blue colours. What's going on over there? Nothing. Slams his laptop shut.
In the photo of the press conference, you can just see the reflection of the heat maps in his glasses.
Did you see as well that Brindamore got a write-in vote for Raleigh City Council?
No.
Yes.
Sake.
Now, it's not as impressive as you think, because
I mean, I can't.
I read through. Sometimes you think, oh, a sports star got write-in votes to be a councilman. You think, wow. There was obviously 3 choices, and they added a 4th because they love this coach so much. I read through those write-in votes. Here are some of the names that got write-in votes. I don't care. This is bullshit. Donald Duck. No more bike lanes. Jesus Christ. And huge erection. Now, Brindamore got 1 write-in vote. Hamilton the pig got 3 write-in votes. So
makes sense. It's always a popularity.
It's not quite
contest.
impressive. Yeah, and the worst thing is as well, we all know after the sweep, Hamilton the pig is now being served up at the fucking Asda meat counter, so he couldn't even do it if he'd got enough write-in votes to win.
Dan, you sounded surprised at this write-in vote, even though you're from the country where a man named Buckethead was standing for an MP.
I'm not surprised by it, but I always thought a write-in vote was only 2 or 3 extras, but this was 4 pages of A4, 2 columns with write-in votes. So I was thinking, wow, there's loads. I never realised it could go that far. That was why I was surprised.
They like taking a piss in Raleigh. What can I say?
I've heard it's a fun town, Will, with a fun hockey team.
So that remains to be seen.
That's true. As good as the Hurricanes are, the Devils are bad.
They head for Simmons. Panthers hold the zone. Sevier sees it deflect back. Uyghur with a shot. They score! It got by Schneider.
The height of the shot from Uyghur. Let's see how that puck banked off the inside of the skate from a Devil, and sometimes you just don't get a break either.
Back for Yandel. Now 2 defensemen employed on the power play for Florida. The shot by Matheson. Saved. They score on a rebound. It was Dadonov who was knocked down in the slot.
Dadonov gets inside position again. That's a heck of an effort by him as he's going to the ice.
And the Devils at one point leading 4-1 here this afternoon versus Florida. Allow the final 5 goals of the afternoon, and the Panthers in come-from-behind fashion win it 6-4.
And
yes,
they're really bad, And I watched, because the beautiful North American holidays gave us some afternoon hockey on this side of the Atlantic, which was amazing. I watched 3 games. It was so good.
I'll be honest, Dan. I wish I hadn't, but I
was going to say
I'm glad everyone else had fun. Really, truly glad.
I watched that Panthers game and I was annoyed at myself during this. I nearly scratched myself during this game because the Devils were up. I know. All right. Yeah, I get it. The Devils were up 4-1. And I said to my wife, I swear to God on a stack of Bibles, I said, this team in red is going to lose this game. And she said, what score is it? I said, they're winning 4-1. She has no idea about hockey, doesn't care. She said, what do you mean they're going to lose? They're winning 4-1. I said, I'm telling you, they're losing this game. And I should have put a bet on it. I should have put 200 quid on it or something, because the odds would have been amazing. But god damn it, even at 4-1, the Devils look ropey. And I know it's the early season. We're doing second week hot takes, blah, 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 whatever. but they looked so slow. Maybe it's early season, maybe they're getting up to speed, but man, the players did not look there. They were all over the place as well. I mean, defensively, I don't know what they're meant to be playing as their scheme. Whatever it wasn't what I saw, because there was times when there was 3 Panthers players and 1 Devils D-man, and times where, for some reason, 2 sort of Devils D-men were going to the corner at the same time to retrieve the puck, instead of one just leaving it to the other one. It was so bad. It was so bad. And when things are against you, they are really against you. Have you seen the Panthers' 5th goal, the go-ahead goal?
No, I haven't.
You know when they say that bad teams just get bad luck, and for some reason good teams seem to get good luck? Sami Vatanen's got Nola Chari in front of him. Obviously he's trying to screen Corey Schneider. As a shot comes in from the D-man, Vatanen shoves Achari. As Achari stumbles forward, the puck hits his stick, gets redirected and goes in. I was just like, oh my God. It was absolutely brutal. It was brutal.
Does he get an assist for that?
And you know that... I don't know what Vatanen.
Yeah.
Maybe he did, I don't know. But if it wasn't for bad luck, the Devils would have no luck at all at the moment.
The thing with the Devils at the moment, like, it's almost like they're playing like a team who came bottom of their division last year and ended up with the first overall pick. Almost like that. Almost like they were a bad team last year and they're carrying on as was. I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. They were bad last year, but you would think, okay, Hischia's, hopefully going to improve again. Now they get Jack Hughes, Taylor Hall's back, they get Subban, they get Gusev, they get Wayne Simmons to help on the power plays, and with a bit of net front and everything. Okay, this might now look a little bit better. Dude, they've looked so bad, so bad. The numbers aren't great, obviously, but they're not terrible for a team that hasn't even won a game yet. They're only 5th in Team Corsi, 10th in shots for, 17th shots against, and 13th in creating high danger chances. So they're not being run over.
Yeah, you can be a bad team but playing relatively well, but not to bring it back to the Stars again, but the way the Stars are playing this season, and you think similar to the Devils and the Avalanche a few years ago when they were historically bad, you can just see when a team has nothing going for them. Can't even string a pass together, can't break the zone, whatever it might be. Yeah, there's teams that lose a lot of games and then there's bad teams.
So with that today, the Devils have put assistant GM Tom Fitzgerald behind the bench, which is a interesting move and has been done before by teams. I guess it's right, you get down there and see what's going on and then report back to the big cheeses.
That's the thing, this early in the season, I'd be surprised if Fitzgerald lasts the year. They'll probably keep looking around for somebody. That's definitely got to be a right. What's actually going on down there? What can we do? What do we need? Who's going to be able to help us, sort of thing.
And then, of course, the bigger story in all of this, of course, is it's not lost in all of this, but Taylor Hall needs a new contract, and he's been very outspoken before about his admiration for what John Tavares did, as all players should be, by the way. As all players should be. We're on record as saying that we love what John Tavares did. We wished every superstar UFA was going to do that. Go and court some teams, create some buzz.
Except for the ones that are on our teams.
Yeah, of course, they have to sign a new contract for a very a very team-friendly contract. All their pieces of shit. But if it's another team, then that's fine and that's exciting.
Please. I mean, not to jump to conclusions, but that's got to be a death knell for Hall's time in New Jersey, surely. I know he's played a playoff game now, hasn't he? Because he was there when they made it the other year, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. When he dragged them in, it was between him and McKinnon, wasn't it? About the Hart conversation and all that kind of thing, because they both kind of dragged their teams in.
Yeah, that's it. But still, to be out of the playoffs as frequent as he has been for such a talented player, I'd be incredibly surprised if he re-signs with them. Incredibly surprised.
It's going to take a massive shift. I just... How long has he been with them now? 3 years?
Yeah, this is their 3rd season, I think.
I think so, yeah.
I've got it here. No, 4th season. God.
4th. And it's still... It's not even... You know what? It's not even that he's with the Devils. It's not even the fact it's the Devils. I mean, obviously he's there, but this guy just wants to play playoff hockey. You just think, how is a guy this good? How is a player this good? How many playoff games has he played in his career?
5.
It's got... Is it really 5?
6 points in 5 games.
Jesus H. Corbett.
And
Taylor Hall's played 5 playoff
how
games.
many AHL games? How many regular season games has he played?
God knows. Quite a few.
Any guesses?
Any guesses? Oh, mind you, missed the season, had some injuries. I think he's 27, isn't he?
Yeah, he would be. 2010 draft.
500?
As of this moment, he's played 568 NHL regular season games.
Then.
Good guess. And and 5 playoff games. Not even 1%. Not even 1%. That's
God, and he's so
that's
good.
Offensive,
He's
isn't it?
so good.
Mate, he's got to jump ship. He absolutely has to jump ship.
Here's an interesting topic then. Here's the thing. You're a player of that caliber.
Yes, I am.
Good interjection. Pretend, Will, that you're a player of that caliber. And, I mean, in theory, he should go somewhere and make 10 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
In theory, around that.
Sergei Bobrovskys making 10 million, so he should probably make 20 million.
Okay, fair point. In theory, he could go somewhere and make 10 million. Does he do that, or does he go to a team that thinks, all right, these guys can win a cup, and he just takes, say, 5 or 6?
Knowing
At this point in his career, I mean, he doesn't need the money, does he? How much has he made over his career? It's not like he's made £1 million. He's made tens of millions.
he has made a lot of money. This is the end of a $36 million contract, I think.
Right. So he'll probably want term, which is fine, because he should get term because he's at that age. He will get term because he's that age. But if I was him, I'd be thinking, I just want to play playoff games. I'll go here for 6 million or something.
Do you reckon
Even 7. Can you imagine getting Taylor Hall for 7 million?
You reckon he'd sign like an Evander Kane contract? It's like 7 million for 8 years or whatever, or 7 years or whatever it was.
Something like that. If I was him, I'd wait to the end of the season, see which teams performed again, see which teams had around about 5-6 million in cap space, and just say, right, give me the rest of your cap space and I'll come play with you. I want to win. I don't need the money.
Knowing nothing about Taylor Hall personally, as I do, I get the feeling that if anyone is going to do this sort of thing, it'd probably be him.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know why, but it's just that. I don't know. He's been so outspoken about his desire just to play playoff hockey ever since he left Edmonton.
I know.
Even while he was in Edmonton, he was pretty outspoken about it, but yeah, I don't know.
And say a team who's got, like, I don't know, for lols, the Senators have got a ton of cap space, right?
Yeah.
Taylor Hall's not going to be, okay,
mate.
great, I'll get $11 million. I'll get $11 million a year. Fantastic.
The Sens are going to
I'd love
throw
go and play
14.
there. No,
actually, no. If it wasn't the Senators, I'd say they're going to throw $14 million at him. But Eugene hasn't got $40 million for one season, let alone for like 7 years.
No, but you know what I mean. A team that bad. Or I was trying to think of a team that was that bad and had cap space. Maybe
like
the Kings have
Columbus
cap space as well. I don't think they do, but or even Columbus, yeah. Because you got to look at the players around you and stuff. You can't keep dragging teams into the playoffs. At some point you're like, all right, can someone else help me here? Can someone else be a guy I can play with that's going to help me, not just me help them?
Let me just have a look at their cap space. But I think I've got a decent team that he might actually work with next year. Let me just check. Oh no, they've got a lot of UFAs, but they're pretty tight to the cap. Maybe the Oilers.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm glad I teed it up though. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I don't know.
Who's his boyhood team?
He's a Toronto boy, isn't he?
He's got to be, hasn't he? Everyone fucking is. Well, never mind. That's that one out then.
It's because everyone's from Toronto. To be fair, it's not.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's not his fault where he was born. Yeah, you were born in Cheshire, so you support Celtic. Like, it's not your fault.
All right, shut up. You got me there. Can't argue with that one.
Oh no, he's a Calgary boy. My mistake, Mr. Hall. Wait, why did he end up playing in the OHL then? That's a story for another day. That's very interesting, though. Very, very interesting. Oh, he must have moved to Ontario when he was a wee boy. Oh, they moved to.
Hey, do you know which team? Do you know which team's got some good players and a fair amount of cap space ready for next year?
Is it the Edmonton Oilers? Is it?
No, it's the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, mate, don't imagine. Oh, I don't want it to happen.
Of course,
I really want it to happen.
Forget Rantanen, right? But McKinnon, Landeskog, Kadri, Donskoy, combined, they make less than 19 million. Like,
Mate.
you know?
So they've got 7.
That's possible.
They've got 7 today. Oh, even if they don't re-sign Andrei Burakovsky, who's making 3.25, if they drop him and sign Hall for 10. They have got some players to re-sign though, like Zadorov. They're back up.
Here's the thing, all right. You got Rantanen, McKinnon, Landeskog, Nadri, Donskoy. You put Taylor Hall on that list, who says, "Yeah, fine, fuck it, I'll take 6. I just want to win." Dude, you could fill out that rest of that roster easily.
This is it.
With decent players.
If you drop Burakovsky 3.25, Colin Wilson is making 2.6, and Matt Nieto is making 1.975. If you just drop those 3 and add in Hall, yeah, you've made up. Let me do my maths here. You've made 7 mil on top of the 7 mil you've already got.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Give Zadorov 4 mil, give Hall 10 mil, and you're laughing.
Don't even give Hall 10 though. We're saying, like, what if he says, "Oh, fine, I'll just take 6.5, 7. I just want to win."
No, but I'm making the point that even if he doesn't want to do that,
Oh, okay, yeah.
the Avalanche could still do it. Like,
yeah,
mate, that's a shout, Dan. That is a shout.
We called it. We called it on October the 16th.
I feel like we're going to remember this.
You might be right. You heard it here first, folks. Taylor Hall to the Colorado Avalanche for 6.75.
10 months before it's even been thought of.
Oh, dearie me. Well, let's talk about something. Oh, fucking hell. So the Blues got to visit the White House. That was lovely.
Jesus.
Do you know what's insane?
Yes.
The amount of fucking times... Yeah, all of this. The amount of times that we see teammates stick up for each other in all kinds of situations. And I'm going to make one example because it's fresh in my mind. But the Austin Matthews thing happened, and some of his teammates came out and said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, we're going to get him the help he needs and support him because apparently he's the fucking victim." But
teammates like
I know
Jim
for a
Houston,
fact,
yeah?
because I know for a fact, every other team will do it. So I'm not trying to single out the Leafs. I know every other team would do that if one of their players did the same thing because that's what they always do. It's insane that these players will stick by each other through those kinds of things. But it seems like 3 or 4 players don't want to go to the White House. They won't just say, "Yeah, I'm not going, guys, to be honest, because I don't like, you know, what Trump stands for and that kind of thing." Because apparently then the teammates would shun them or something. Because as was mentioned in the various articles reported about it, some of the Blues players probably didn't want to go. But God forbid they speak up. Because, as we said before, it's a fucking old boys club. And you got to support the team for the good of the team and all that kind of shit.
Part of the problem, well, the main problem with like expecting hockey teams to boycott going to see Donald Trump in the White House, like, yeah, it can still be disappointing, but like it should never be surprising because every single member of that organisation is part of the 1% that he panders for. They're all what? Who's the cheapest player on the Blues this season? Like someone earning $800,000 a year. $800,000 a year.
Yeah, probably about that.
They are the people that would vote him in. I don't know. I don't necessarily think there should ever be any surprise that a hockey player is a Trump fan, because they're mega rich, and the only people that really like what he does are the mega rich and the mega racist, and that's actually quite a large crossover in the Venn diagram of hockey players.
Here's what I don't get right. All we talk about is how hockey is, you know, the distant fourth sport in North America. It's miles behind. And at points now is that reports are that soccer's probably going to catch up at some point, especially with, you know, the MLS and America and all that kind of thing. So here's what I don't get. Would anybody actually give a shit in the outside world if the Stanley Cup team didn't go to the White House?
I think they
I just can't imagine anybody in the outside world would give 2 shits. But to the extent of being like, well, that's it now. I'm not talking hockey anymore. I'm not covering it anymore. A team didn't go to the White House. Are you crazy? I just don't think it would happen. I don't think it would happen.
And I'd imagine a lot of the people that would are probably, you know, of the persuasion that don't watch hockey anyway. Because they're
That's the thing.
too busy
Like,
drinking warm beer in the sun and shooting rats with their air rifles or whatever.
And they've probably been told to go by higher ups in certain places. I'm not saying the Blues organisation, but outside influences, companies who maybe support them or have advertising or stuff like that. That's why they have to go. But I just don't think nobody in the outside world would give a shit, because it's October. The season's already started. People barely even remember last season at this point. At the start of every season, nobody really cares about the last season. The fans of the team that won the cup do, but that's about it. Every other team is like, yeah, let's go.
Barely even remember.
I just don't think anyone would care. Yeah, I don't think. Shut up. I don't think anyone remember who would care. I don't think anybody would even care if they went or not.
I think some people. I think it would be a good statement and it would make it out. But you're right. It's not going to be on the levels of like Kaepernick or something like that. The thing that the repeated visits to Trump's White House highlight, going back 3 teams now, is that hockey is a facade. Like the whole hockey culture is just a joke. It's it's masquerading as like old blue collar work ethic and stuff like that. Work hard. We're get your lunch pail. We're sort of game of the people, the people's game or whatever. It's all Western Canadian boys who work hard on the farm, and then you end up getting to the show and all that. Just work hard and you'll be able to be successful. But it's really a white collar population pretending to be blue collar sort of thing, whereas none of the actual sort of working class ethics and ideals are represented in their own personal politics or team politics, and it's a joke. It's all just a joke.
Mate, that's such a good point. That's always the argument, isn't it, in regards to hockey viewership and becoming a player and that kind of thing, is it's just so expensive to even get started. And all the players who make it, 90 times out of 100 are players who have been well financed and can have all the best equipment bought for them and all that kind of thing. It's a white collar sport masquerading as a blue collar sport.
And that's the thing, and it's not, obviously it's a problem that hockey isn't that accessible, but you don't see dressage and like polo players. I know it sounds like a joke, but you don't see, you don't see dressage riders out there like, just gotta tough it out there. You got to work really hard. Like I've been working hard ever since I was out with my daddy, and blah 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 blah. It's like rugby players. Rugby players are tough, but they don't hide the fact that they're all fucking toffs. You know what I mean?
It's like, you've got it exactly right. I love that quote, mate. It's a white collar sport pretending to be blue collar sport.
It's class appropriation, is what it is.
Politics in sports, just the mouth breathers of the world, linking sports to being supremely patriotic, which it's insane. It's insane. What the fuck does hitting a rubber disc into a net have to do with defending human rights? Do you know what I mean? Or like the sanctity of your country, or I've never got it. They have the fucking national anthems every... Can you imagine being a player and hearing that fucking national anthem 100 times a season? Jesus Christ. It can drive you mad.
So they're playing it at Madison Square Gardens, Star Spangled Banner. It's not a banger. It'd be good if they rebranded. And they've got a starting 6 of a Russian at left wing, a Swedish centre, a Russian at right wing, an American on D, and I think Libor Hajek's Czech maybe, and then their franchise player, a Swede in goalie.
It's just ridiculous. But then, the military pay all the sports leagues to promote that shit, don't they? They make a fortune off them. That's why they do it.
Yeah. This is it. It's really good that we promote people who join organisations with the sole intent of killing people from other countries. That's a really, really good thing to promote, isn't it? And associate with the sport.
I know.
Which is meant to just be... The whole point of sport is to forget your worries and your strife. Just get down to the game and we're all equal. We're all pals. We're all just Rangers fans or whatever we might be.
Yeah. Hey, look, we're all wearing the same coloured jersey. We must all like each other. Let's all be friends.
Yeah,
Yay! That's all it is. That's what it should be.
Unless you're a woman or Muslim or, have African heritage or gay or anything like that.
You know what? Let's just shout out Braden Holtby, Brett Connolly, and Devontae Smith-Pelly for last season saying, I'm not going. Fuck it. Shout out to those guys. Big time.
And the other people around the league who speak up when needs be, like JT Brown doesn't get enough press, I don't think, for what he did.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not his fault he's not as good a player as like Braden Holtby is, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. As we said a few weeks ago, players don't seem to get enough credit when they do good things, but when anything bad happens, it's all over the place. But shout out to those three especially for not going last time. All right, let's finish up with this last thing. Senators' attendance is... I just caught this story before we came on the show. Last Thursday, the Blues were in town. The Stanley Cup champions were playing in Ottawa. Well, and the attendance was a shade over 9,000. For you football fans out there, that's League One level. That is.
Jesus
and it's right.
Christ.
It's even worse. Not only that, but it wasn't like fans were being priced out, because some tickets were on StubHub for $12, which in English money is £7. £7 to watch a professional hockey team in the best professional hockey league in the world. £7, and they got just over 9,000 fans to watch the Cup champions.
Hold on, wait, don't necessarily hold on, but I wanna see.
You're looking at League One teams.
Do you know the capacity of the Coventry Blaze of the EIHL, our beloved EIHL?
I don't know what it is. Go on.
Severing can hold 5,621 fans.
Oh my God.
Ah, mate.
God almighty.
Jeez Louise.
At some point the league's got to step in. They've got to. The reports are as well, they've only sold 3,500 season tickets. Do you know what? If you're one of those 3,500 fans, God bless you. God bless you for putting your money down and going to support your team. But Christ almighty, 3,500.
That is mental. Cool. I've undersold this. The average attendance for the Sheffield Steelers last year was 6,127.
Deary me. Deary me.
Oh my god. And that was the year after Kirky had left. Jesus.
Oh yeah.
And this week has been the first game since their relocation to Winnipeg that the Jets haven't sold out their arena, which is interesting.
All right, Blackpool Football Club, right?
Go on. What average? Have you got average attendance for me?
I have got... Oh no, it's even better. It's even better.
All right, hold on.
Let's go.
Let me have a look in.
Okay, okay. Blackpool, Rotherham United, Lincoln City.
Lincoln City. Don't be cussing out Rotherham over the Chuckle Brothers.
No, I'll say nothing. To me.
Did you see
You
that
left
video?
me hanging then.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. Did you see that video when Paul died, didn't he? Or was it Barry?
Either way, whichever one went first.
Are they both dead?
Yeah, but the other one died recently.
Oh shit, I didn't even know. Well, when the first one died, did you see that video?
Oh, just saying to me.
He's at Rotherham. He's at a Rotherham game, and like the whole stadium was shouting, to me, to you. So good.
Fucking shout out to the Chuckle
Big
Brothers.
up the Chuckle
if you don't know who they are, and you, God, maybe you do, maybe you don't, I don't know, but shout out to the Chuckle Brothers, a part of my youth.
Anyone in North America who's listening, I'd say check out the Chuckle Brothers. But it's not like...
You have to live in England to get it, I think. I think it's one of those
you have
things.
to live in England and be 7 years old to get it. It's like saying go check out Basil Brush.
Actually, yeah.
Like, it's not... It's not...
Shout out to Basil Brush. Oh my God.
Mate, I tell you, I feel like we're a bit robbed that the Chuckle Brothers never made it as big as Ant and Dec did.
Do you know, that's a fantastic point. That's a fantastic... Well, do you know what? If Rotherham had got to the Premier League, maybe they'd have had a chance. They might have been able to do it then.
Like, Paul and Barry on BT Sport doing punditry for Rotherham Premier League game.
Oh my word!
Well, they need Barry to come more to me to use in the other opponent's half.
Oh dear.
Go on. Who else have we got? I assume all these people have higher average attendances than the Senators do.
Well, I'll say that the average attendance in League One of Peterborough United, Milton Keynes Dons, Doncaster Rovers, and Lincoln City were a shade under the Senators' attendance. And then Bolton, Rotherham, Blackpool, Portsmouth, Ipswich and Sunderland are all over.
Bolton, a team that are bottom of League One.
Bolton, a team that nearly went out... that nearly went out of existence before the start of the season. They literally nearly folded the entire club and shut it down and ceased trading and said, that's it. This team no longer exists. It is done. They still have a higher attendance than the Ottawa Senators. Oh my God.
Oh, I love football. Oh my God. I wonder if there's a League Two team that's got more...
Oh my God, yes, you legend. Let's have a look.
There's got to be someone in there. Someone who you think, are they in League Two? I mean, there's nobody who's jumping out at me. Oh, yes. Is it Crew?
No, Crew got no chance. Oh my God. People, I know we talk about football a lot, but for the uninitiated, League Two, the lowest professional, you've just seen it, the lowest professional football league in this country. The players on these teams, some of them are part-time. So some of them play football as like a secondary job. It's not their main income. Some of them will be earning around about, £200 a week, which probably equates to about $300 a week. That's what some of these players earn. And some of these players play in stadiums. Yeah. For like the mid-table, like League Two, like, how a place for Exeter City going to earn? You got a whole squad. They're not going to earn like $4 or $5 a week, are they? They're getting like pittance.
I
Yeah,
thought it might be like a grand a week or something.
Well, no, I mean some of the players. Obviously, the better ones are going to get that, but there will be players here who will be earning around about $300-400 a month, $300-400 a week to play in a supposed professional league in this country. Those players who play for Bradford City and Plymouth Argyle get a higher average attendance than the Ottawa Senators.
14,000 for every home game in Bradford. That's just mental. This country has a problem. Like a serious problem.
I know, we're actually opening up another wound here in regards to, like, Jesus Christ, people got to do something better with their time than go to football games.
Severely addicted to football.
People, there's other things to do with your life. It's fine. You can go and do other things.
If we can compare apples to apples as close as we can with this football analogy, AFC Bournemouth, the lowest attendance in the Premier League, a team that is widely considered to have a ground that is unfit for the top tier of professional sports.
So true.
Have a higher average attendance than Ottawa does.
Do you know what's insane? If Bradford City started getting Ottawa attendances, they'd be like, oh my God, we're in trouble.
We're going to have to fold. We're only playing our players to unfair.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Oh my God. The league has got to do something. The league has to do something.
Get Eugene. Who's chairman of Bradford? Give Eugene his number. Oh,
bloody hell.
Giddy odds. One last thing I want to check.
I never thought
about young Bradford.
I didn't think that would be that funny.
Oh, it's always funny. I just want to see where do you reckon Bradford's ground is?
Hang on. No, hang on. I'm checking the Vanarama conference.
Conference South.
Oh, Welling, 4,000. Interesting.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my God. Notts County, they're not over.
Oh shit, Notts County aren't in the league anymore.
Notts County of the Vanarama National League, which I guarantee, unless you live anywhere near England, you will have never even heard of this entire league, let alone some of these teams. Notts County's average attendance is only 4,000 less than Ottawa. They average 5,500 per home game.
Mate, that's ridiculous.
And Notts County is at least, even if they were top of the league, they would still be the 93rd best team in England, statistically.
93rd.
And they only get 4,000 less than Ottawa.
To be fair to Ottawa, it's a bit unfair to compare them to Bradford, because population-wise, Bradford have a third as many people as Ottawa do.
God almighty. God almighty.
Oh my good God.
Do you know what? I really enjoyed that little ride with it on there. That little trip down average attendances in certain places.
There's nothing I never
Deary
thought I'd
me.
laugh so hard at the average attendance of Bradford City Football Club.
It's the Bolton one that got me. Like, they nearly went out of
Bolton.
existence. And they still average more than the Sens.
Oh man.
Deary me.
Oh, all right. Okay. We've got to do one last one.
Go on.
Hold on, I've got to try and find it. What do you reckon Berry's attendance was last year?
I don't know.
Were they in League One? They were, weren't they?
Why'd you pick Berry?
Because they literally did go out of business.
Oh my God, yes, of course.
Hold on, I'm nearly there. Oh my God. I'm so buzzing. 4,000 per game. But yeah, they went bankrupt.
Still. A team that went out of business, a team that no longer exists, got 4,000 fans.
And a team with less than a quarter the population of... No, less than a fifth the population of Ottawa.
We need to just send Gaz Bettman this audio, don't we? And just say, do you understand how bad this is
Come
in
on,
Ottawa?
mate.
Do you understand what Melnick's done to this team? Come on, mate. You've stepped in before. Just do it again.
Oh my God.
Oh, sweet fancy Moses. That was excellent.
There's nothing that screams good podcast content than a bunch of Englishmen reading out average attendances for lower league football teams and just laughing.
It's true though, isn't it? It's not till you look at the cold hard facts about certain teams around the world in different leagues that you think, hang on a minute, this is a disaster.
fucking
And
joke.
Ottawa is a disaster.
Christ alive.
Again, Ottawa fans. You know what? Ottawa fans, you have my sympathies. Oh my God.
Nah, no sympathy for Ottawa fans anymore. Sack them off, mate.
To be fair though, I guess that the poor attendance. I mean, a lot of them are just voting with their wallets, aren't they? I'm not going. Why should I go? This team's a joke. The ownership's a joke. They're taking this franchise that I care about and they're just making it into a laughing stock. So I don't blame them for not going. All right, let's get off this before we start looking into other leagues around the world.
Yeah,
Bloody hell.
I feel we've come very far and been very fortunate. So let's wrap it up before my baby wakes up.
How many fans were at the Kabaddi World Cup this year? Let's find out.
Thousands upon thousands. The entirety of Bradford
Holding on to
City's
it.
away contingent turned out for the Kabaddi World Cup.
Yeah, bloody hell. All right, let's move on. Last thing, man versus 8-year-old.
Hey, Will, you schmuck. You're going to get roasted by an 8-year-old, you fool.
Will, good start for you. You are 4-3 up.
Fucking
So-
go on. Get in.
All you got to do is maintain. Let's bang these results out. All right, Wild Canadians,
Oh shit. Canadians.
Rangers Caps,
Caps.
Flames Ducks.
Flat Ducks. Yeah, Ducks.
Yeah, sneaky local.
It doesn't feel right, but I mean they're winning more games at the moment, so yeah, Ducks.
Yeah. Vegas Flyers,
Vegas has to be.
and Penguins Panthers.
Oh shit. The Penguins is after they pulled out those results,
Okay.
like you can't. If the Panthers have been playing like as well as they should be playing, then it'd be an easy pick for the Panthers, but they aren't. So
Yeah, they aren't. So there you
who do you reckon's going to win out of the battle of Sidney Crosby versus Sergei Bobrovsky?
go. When you put it like that, it's a good point. Cheers, listening, folks. Massive thank you to Paul Campbell for coming on. Appreciate his
Big
time.
up, Paul.
We'll see you next week. Will, any last words?
No, just exciting stuff coming forward, as you said earlier. Please like, rate, and subscribe, as they say. Like, it will really help us out and stuff like that. I think I speak for both of us when I say we don't do as much as we'd want to do, as much as life and work allows us to do. So if we can get, let's throw it out there, Dan. If we can get a SeatGeek sponsorship like every other hockey podcast out there, then we might be a bit more
Yeah, that's true.
free to do as we please.
Do you know what? One last thing as well. Real talk now between us hockey fans on real talk here is that if we can justify to our wives why we get to drop some days at work to do podcasting instead, it makes it a lot easier for us if we have monetary value attached to that.
Or even just watching the games, being able to
Yeah.
say, oh, can I? Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch hockey again tonight, love, because I've got to do research for work, innit? That's a dream.
There we go. All right, folks, take care. We'll see you later.
Peace.